Good morning, everyone. Today's message is a little bit mostly about childhood. I know recently I've mentioned a little bit about your past and sort of not fitting into the environment that you grew up in, sort of watching everybody else in your environment, whether that be like family or whoever it is that raised you, sort of not feeling like you fit in. And today's message brings almost like an echo. It feels like a ripple of the past message of childhood and things regarding childhood. But this one talks about strength. It talks about not settling. In the past, particularly, with your family or like friends when you were younger, you may have, out of maybe politeness or consideration or not wanting to seem rude, not wanting to trouble anyone or be a hassle, you may have settled for certain things. Like if someone offered you a drink or something, and they wanted to give you like apple juice and you don't like apple juice, you would have taken the apple juice anyways. This is like childhood. I'm talking like most of your childhood, like from when you were born till the point maybe into like middle school, even like a bit of high school. I'm seeing a little bit of rebellion in high school, not like outwardly rebellion, but in the past you did sort of settle because you didn't want to make it a big deal and you didn't want people to feel bad, right? Or you didn't want to upset them. You were thinking a little bit too much about the other person and not so much about yourself. But recently, there has been a shift, and now it's more like you don't really settle or you don't want to settle. You're getting into this energy of not wanting to settle. And so when someone offers you something, you ask for something, let's say, right? They give you something else, almost like a consolation. You're not afraid to say, actually, no, that's not what I want. This is what I had asked for. Even if this isn't something you're doing yet, this is something that's going to happen. Especially since this is the beginning of a year, I see this happening a lot this upcoming year. This energy of really giving yourself exactly what you want and not so much. I don't see you being unkind about it, but you're learning to say no and you're learning to align with yourself, right? In the sense that you're learning to honor the things that you want instead of stamping it down. And again, I think this is connected to your childhood, particularly now as you're older. It is connected, I think, to your inner child. You are honoring your inner child more. It almost feels like you're parenting your inner child more, like you're not. I'm seeing something here about witnessing the loving bond between, particularly like a mother and her child, and you're witnessing the closeness between this mother and child. And it's almost like you're kind of learning from them, or if you've never experienced this yourself, like this closeness with the mother, then it's like you're learning from external sources of what mothering yourself looks like, and you're stepping into that role of caring for yourself. You're nurturing yourself in a motherly way. This may be also connected to um, the feminine energy and healing the feminine energy, in the sense that you're learning to give also to your feminine energy. I've always thought there was a very close connection between the inner child and the feminine energy, but mostly this is regarding you learning to parent yourself from a motherly perspective. And you can be any gender. This isn't specific to gender. You don't have to be a mother yourself or have ever thought about being a mother. In fact, I think you may be someone who has never thought about being a mother, or it's not possible for you to be a mother. So you've never had a how do I explain this? It's like there was something that needed for you to witness this motherly bonds, these close motherly bonds between like a mother and a child from an external perspective. It's not something that you learned from your own experience. I'm seeing a lot of things like from like areas and locations from your childhood, a lot of people like friends from your childhood, past homes, this energy of this seems to be mostly around like elementary school times. So at that point, something significant could have happened, or something related to this like motherly energy. Maybe a disconnect of some sort could have happened. Because what I'm feeling in particular is like this like witnessing was done kind of by this child. And I'm feeling like this is the inner child watching on kind of in wonder, in amazement, and watching these close bonds around you and sort of learning, oh, is this what this bond is supposed to look like? This connection is supposed to look like. And it seems to me sort of like this is kind of where I said disconnect before, but I think it's more like this is where a learning kind of happened and a slow understanding happened from that point on. So it was very early on in life. It may feel a little uncomfortable or maybe even a little nerve-wracking, but I really recommend that you look into what a mother wound is if you're resonating with this, because there may be something there for you. Um, yeah, if this message, if you feel something, a pull towards it, and you feel kind of a connection and a resonation with it, then I would say, yeah, please look up mother wounds and see if there's something there for you, because there might be. Because that was coming up pretty, like, even though what I saw, what I felt pretty good, it feels like either you're at a good place now or you're coming up to a good place, but there's still some things that need to be healed, and it seems to be heavily regarding mother wounds, especially since there was this energy of parenting yourself. The only other thing that I saw here is that you may have felt like an imposter a lot of your life. The Either the culture or the religion or just the environment that you kind of grew up in, it's giving kind of like it was very much a requirement for you to be a certain way, but it never felt right. The energy that I kind of got, that I picked up on, was sort of like, you know how when you're in high school and or in college and stuff, and you're right before an exam, if you haven't studied at all, you start cramming so that everything stays kind of fresh in your memory before you walk into that exam room. This is the energy that I picked up on, is that these requirements that were obligations for you, in order for you to fit in. Again, we have this theme of fitting in and wanting to fit in. But these obligations, they never felt right for you. But because they were requirements, you always felt like you needed to memorize certain things so you can act on them when called upon, essentially. But now you're stepping into this energy of like, I can't do this anymore. It's sort of like, if I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but going back to this like example, you may have at certain point in your life tried this cramming thing and then realized, I'm not learning anything, like this isn't doing anything for me. But you realize all this cramming that I'm doing, all this last minute panicking, this method is not helping me in any way. And then maybe it made you realize maybe this isn't the path for me, because if I'm not truly interested in the subject, what am I doing here? And I think it just comes full circle with this energy of how you're no longer people pleasing. We come back to this energy of people pleasing. I've mentioned this before, but you're coming full circle and realizing that this cramming that I'm doing for these obligations, it's not doing anything for me. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for this environment that I grew up in. I'm doing it for my family or friends or whoever it is that I'm trying to hold up these obligations for. It's not doing anything for me. It's not making me happy. It's not bringing me peace. So why am I here? And it seems like these realizations are really helping you step into your own. And I think this is, again, goes back to like the inner child, where your inner child feels protected now and feels safe to express themselves, right? Overall, just very healing energy. I can feel the strength here. And I just wanted to say that I'm very proud of you for how far you've come. It's not easy feeling like an imposter in your own home, but you felt like you had to be in order to be loved, in order to be accepted. So I'm very proud of you for giving that love and that attention to yourself instead now. It's difficult, but you did it, or you will be doing it very soon. And that is definitely something to be proud of. So good job. You've come a long way, a long, long way. And I feel like it has been a difficult journey so far, but you're on the right track. Okay, this is just a little footnote. Normally, I post my messages almost right away after I receive them, but today it didn't feel like it was complete, or it didn't feel quite as natural as it normally does. So I didn't post it, and I kind of waited a bit. And a little while ago, I just very randomly started feeling a little drowsy and tired. And from my experience so far, I've come to know that if I'm getting that way, if I'm suddenly tired, I need to rest and receive, because there's more into what I initially received. And so I took a little break, and sure enough, I received some signs. I saw some things, and I thought I would add these in here sort of as confirmation, but also to bolster kind of what I was saying before. So if you've been seeing these things a lot, treat it as like a confirmation. And if not, then use this as like to help you better understand kind of the meat of the message. The first thing I saw here was cookies, particularly a gingerbread cookie. I know we're just stepped out of the Christmas season, but I saw a gingerbread cookie and immediately thought of cookie jars. And when I thought of cookie jars, I think the saying is like, keep your hand out of the cookie jar, or there's that like nursery rhyme type thing where it's like, who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? But whenever I think of like the cookie jar, I think of like reward or like a prize or something, particularly for like children. So it's like, if you finish your dinner, you'll get like a cookie or whatever. And so in lieu of the message that I put out, this is telling me that like, because you're kind of bolstering and strengthening your inner child, it's like you no longer need to be like reaching over the counter to try and struggle to reach the cookie jar. It's like now it's like almost you're putting your inner child up on your shoulder. You're supporting them so they can reach the cookie jar. And you no longer have to struggle to like receive any reward or any sort of, I heard like compensation or any sort of prize. The second thing I saw was this giant blue eye, like hyper realistic. If you've ever seen those pictures online of like the camera zoomed in on an eye, particularly of like lighter colored eyes, you usually see those like webbings or the tendrils, like the whitish kind of tendrils in blue eyes or like green eyes, usually blue eyes. Like that's what's coming to mind. That was specifically the thing I saw. And not only is this giving like clearness, like clarity, like when you zoom in into an eye, like with a macro lens, you really see how clear the iris is. So I'm getting like clarity or clearness, like everything is very clear right now. But also it reminded me, when I was looking at this, it reminded me of like the sea foam along like the shoreline, as like the waves of an ocean like crashes against the shoreline of a beach. Which to me, what I'm feeling is that you're just starting to kind of dip your toes into the water. So maybe I mentioned in my like the whole message that you may not know what like mother wounds are, and you should look it up. So I feel like this is something coming into your like intuitive sphere, like you're starting to kind of understand that there's certain things that you need to look into, and you're starting to kind of dip your toes into. So like not just like mother wounds, but if this is the first time you're hearing about the inner child, and you're kind of, it piques your curiosity, I would say definitely look into that, like the mother wound stuff, but also specifically like inner child stuff. If this is like piquing your interest, then definitely like look into it. What I saw next was like a flight or a plane, and then particularly like jumping off and having like a parachute. And this to me is very obviously about safe landing and about how this leap, right, this venture, whether it be looking into, like I said, like the inner child, mother wound stuff, or whatever it is, this exploration of bolstering your inner strength, it's going to be like easy in the sense that it's going to feel like you're floating. Like I don't say it's going to be easy, because a lot of the times confronting things like this can be heavy, right? But it's not going to, you're not going to crash land or anything. You have a parachute, you have something that's going to almost take you through this journey, so you have nothing to fear.